Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. It's Jubilee weekend here in the UK, and we've all had a nice long weekend to celebrate the reign of our Queen, 70 years of Queen Elizabeth. So there's been street parties up and down the country and lots of celebrations. I'm sure if you're in the UK you've probably participated, and if you're overseas you may well have seen it on the news. Today's Monday, it's a bank holiday, and fortunately, I'm not required at work, so I've been able to get the day off. Back in tomorrow, so I'll have to tidy myself up a little bit. But yeah, I've definitely been relaxing and enjoying the weekend with my family. Got my brew on the go as usual in the workshop. Got my cup of tea in one of my favourite cups. I love my lathe, and I really do love my lathe. And I've also been getting rather fond of my milling machine. And we're going to have a look at the milling machine in this video. I've managed to fit the VFD now, that's up and running, so we're going to have a look at that. It won't be an in-depth view of how I've done it, but it will be a view of you know what I have done and a look at it running. I've also got some books to show you if I have time in this video. I've got some home engineering titles, and I've got a couple of motorcycle titles as well, which I think you'll enjoy seeing, and maybe even consider that they'll be useful in your own collection. So we'll have a look at those if we get time. Depends how long the video runs for. So let's get on and have a look at the mill. Okay, so we're over at the mill and we're looking at my swanky new three-phase motor, 90S size. It is a TEC, very popular I think around the world, this brand of motor, found in lots of home workshops, certainly in the UK, up and down the country. I imagine a lot of the home workshops have got these things powering the lathes and the mills. What can I say? It was easy to fit. It fitted all the existing mountings. I had no problems with it whatsoever. You will recall in my last video about the mill that I wasn't happy about the way that they terminated the motor cable into the gland. I just had to tidy that up a little bit. It was a bit of a letdown in my opinion. Thankfully that's the only sort of criticism I've got of this setup really. Everything else has been really good and I've been happy with it. So there's the motor, and then we'll move down to what I've done with the VFD. If I can get the camera to pan, 1 second. So here we are looking at what I've done with the VFD. Now you'll recall that I canvassed your opinion on where to put this thing in my last milling machine video, and many of you kindly replied with some good advice and tips. I was going to put it inside the sort of electrical cabinet that exists within the column, and a lot of you guys said no, don't put it in there. You know, it might suffer from vibration, it might not get the ventilation it needs, and if you need to do anything to it, you need to sort of do any maintenance, you know, it's buried in there, so don't put it in there. And a lot of guys said stick it on the wall, and I did consider doing that actually. I thought I was going to put a panel on the wall and screw it to that, but then I thought actually I don't really want it on the wall because I want the machine to be self-contained and you know, to be able to be picked up and lifted and moved. We're not planning on moving house, but you just never know. I'd rather it was self-contained. Also, this wall is only a single skin brick. We've never had any damp, but we've not had any really bad winters whilst we've been in this house. So you just never know if you get a little bit of damp coming through. So anyway, I came up with a compromise that incorporated a lot of your ideas, but gave me my self-contained machine. And I've rubber mounted it in this box. So these four mounts here are rubber mounts to isolate it from vibration. And then this box you can't see, but there are ventilation holes in the front of this this box here. And then I've used glands to ensure that all the cables going into it are sealed and protected. So I think that's quite a good compromise. The VFD itself inside is mounted on an aluminium angle that I bent up from a bit of sheet, and I've also made a kind of a foam cradle for it to sit in, which further isolates it from vibration. I don't think it's going to have any issues cooling, because the guidebook said that as long as it's not used in an ambient temperature over 40 degrees C, it will quite happily sit in an enclosure. Now, south of England, I don't think we're going to see those kind of temperatures. It does get quite warm in here, but the hottest it's ever been in this garage is about 32 degrees. So I think generally it's going to be quite fine. That's with all the doors and windows closed. So I wouldn't work in here without ventilation anyway. So I think we're good. So that's the VFD itself, mounted to the machine, and then I've got the control panel up here, which I'll just get you a better view of. And you're probably thinking, why is it dangling on a shonky old bit of string? Which is exactly what it is at the moment. And the reason for that is I haven't got a final position to fit this yet, because my intention is to fit a DRO system, and then I'll probably have this incorporated somewhere over here on the DRO screen for ease of use, and also to keep it out of the way and keep it clean. So that's a control panel. You've seen that before. So yeah, do excuse the rather low-tech suspension device. That's purely temporary, I assure you. Although if it's still there in 5 years, you have my permission to rebuke me sternly. So that's shown you all the bits and pieces that I've fitted. Let's have a look at the thing running and give it a test run. Okay, so we're facing the mill now, and I've just put on a little bit of green tape on the spindle so that you can see it rotating. I haven't really got any tooling that I can put in there at the moment, apart from the face mill that you see on the table there, and I haven't got a drawbar to fit it with, so I couldn't put that in, unfortunately. But with the green tape on, you'll be able to see it rotating. So without further ado, let's give it a go. Here's the pendant. I've got it set to forward and run, so let's give it a go. So that's it running on the lowest setting. That's motor RPM of 175. I haven't figured out what the various belt positions will give me yet. I'll have to work that one out at a later date. We'll just run it up through its speed range. Now that's 1800 RPM on the motor, and it's lovely and smooth. I mean, it's so much smoother. The machine isn't bolted to the floor, isn't even levelled, but there's hardly any vibration at all through the machine, which when it had the single phase system on, it was quite a lot rougher, quite frankly. So I'm pleased with the improvement. And then obviously you can reverse. None of this is news to any of you guys, I don't suppose. There we go. And what I really like is the jog function, because I can see that being really useful for tapping and all kinds of things, really. So there we go. That really is all the functions of the machine. I have retained one original feature, and that's the kick switch. Now, that was originally configured as an emergency stop on the original system. It killed the power to the contactor, and so obviously killed power to the machine. So it was a proper emergency stop, as it should be wired. Now, I haven't wired it in that configuration. It's in series with the stop button, so it's an additional stop rather than an emergency stop. Yeah, that's kind of the best I could do with it, really. I just wanted a means of stopping the machine, if I couldn't get my hands to the pendant. I didn't want to kill power to the contactor, not to the contactor, rather to the VFD, because Mitsubishi in their instructions advise against it. If this was a commercial setting, then you know, it wouldn't be a problem. You would do that for reasons of health and safety. You'd rather blow an inverter than injure someone. But I think in this setting, I've got an additional stop. I've got a means of stopping the machine without using my hands. So I'm more than happy that we can do that. Some people don't have that on their home machines. I wanted to retain that just so that I felt that little bit extra confidence that I could stop the machine if my hands were, shall we say, otherwise engaged. So there we go. That's the VFD fitted and running. I suppose the question, the bottom line is, would I buy the Newton Tesla setup again? I think I would. I think that it's reasonably pricey. It's one of the priciest systems on the market, but I think I've got my money's worth. I'm happy with the components individually. It works as it should do. Just that one criticism, that the wiring to the motor was pretty nasty to look at, straight out of the box to see, earthing insulating tape sticking out of the gland. I just think that wasn't a great first impression. It didn't take long to put right, but in the very slight chance that Newton Tesla are watching my video, yeah, that's probably something that you need to avoid in the future. But yes, I'd buy it again. Yes, I'm happy with it, and I think that's really all that we can say. Right, so I was talking about the tooling. This face mill came with the machine. It was a little bit rusty, but it's cleaned up quite nicely. I'm just trying to get a good view. It doesn't have any inserts fitted, so I'm going to have to try and figure out what inserts it takes. If anybody knows offhand, please put it in the comments and let me know. There is some numbering on it. It's 7551-R8-27-36, and it appears to be made by, let me have a look, Bison. It's a Bison. So yeah, if anyone's an expert on these things, or at least knows what tips I need to buy, let me know in the comments, because I'm probably going to have to go on the internet and start looking up different inserts and taking measurements. But it's quite a nice piece of kit. Tooling wise, it came with that. It came with a drawbar that's seen better days. The threads are completely short on that, so that's no good. I'll have to get another one. And that was just about it. There were some other bits and pieces in a box. Bit of a clamp set, so I've got some clamps for it. It was incomplete, but there's still quite a bit of it there. But that was just about it, really. So I'm going to have to get a drill chuck, an R8 drill chuck, and an ER32 collet holder as a minimum, really, so that I can get working, because that's sort of the bare minimum really that I need. I've got ER32 collets already, so it doesn't make sense really to get anything else. So yeah, that's my next step really. Get some tooling and get using it. But as I say, if anybody knows anything about that face mill and can give me some information, I'd very much appreciate it. Okay guys, well, we're back over at the bench now, and I'd like to share with you some books that I've got in my collection that I think will be interesting to you, and maybe you'll want to sort of see if you can find a copy for your own collection. Anyway, I think you'll enjoy looking at them. And the first one is Marking Out for Machinists, and this is by a chap called Captain Richard Twelvetrees. And Captain Twelvetrees was an engineer in the British Army during the Second World War, and he was a prolific engineer after the war. And this book is pretty much everything you need to know if you want to mark out castings or raw materials for manufacturing your own components. It gives you sort of really easy to understand information about marking out all kinds of different. You see, there's a sump casting or something on there. But yeah, all kinds of different sort of marking out scenarios are covered by this book. And if you can find a copy of it, I think it's out of print, but if you can find a copy of it second hand, it's well worth putting on your shelf. I doubt you'll get it for 2 shillings, but yeah, it's a good book. Marking Out for Machinists by Captain Richard, 12 trees. So that's the first one. And the second one I'd like to show you, many of you I'm sure will already have if you've got a lathe in your workshop, and it's my personal favourite on my shelf, and it is The Amateur's Lathe by Lawrence H. Sperry, L.H. Sperry, a very prolific, again, engineering writer in the 40s and the 50s. And there you go, that's in there. And this book is still in print, you can still get it. Your favourite bookseller or your online bookseller will probably have a copy of it in stock, I would think. It comes in a new glossy illustrated cover now, but it's the same book. And yeah, basically, if you've got a lathe at home, you really ought to have this book on your shelf. Even if you are a seasoned sort of machinist, I think you'll learn something from this book. Basically, if you can do it with a lathe, it's in here, and there's quite a lot of things that you didn't know that you could do with a lathe in here as well. So yeah, a great book, The Amateur's Lathe, L.H. Sperry. Out of all the books, that's the one I would recommend you spend your money on. The next one is very similar, and that's The Amateur's Workshop by Ian Bradley. Again, this book is still in print. I've got a much older, I think this is a 1971 or 2 copy, but it's still in print, still the same book. And again, Ian Bradley, another one of those guys, very prolific writer in sort of engineering journals at the time, probably from the 1940s through into the 1970s. And lots of great stuff in this book, setups, milling, machining, and yeah, lots of good information, lathe tools, grinding and all that sort of stuff. The Amateur's Workshop, Ian Bradley, another really good addition to the home workshop library. So that covers the engineering books, and we're going to have a look at some motorcycle titles now. And the first one, if you're a Bantam guy, you've probably already got it, but let's have a look. The Book of the BSA Bantam, W.C. Haycraft and Pitman Motorcyclists Library. Haycraft was a motorcycle journalist. I think he wrote in The Motorcycle, among other papers, back in the 50s and 60s. And his love of the British motorcycle is in every line of this book, quite frankly. He absolutely loves them. And this is a great book if you haven't got an owner's manual for your bike. It gives you sort of riding tips, handling a Bantam, there you go, riding tips, maintenance tips, how to keep it in good condition. Basically, it's an owner's manual for the Bantam, and electrics, it's all there, look. So a great book, well worth having if you are a Bantam enthusiast. The next one is a modern book, a new title, excuse me, and it's the BSA Bantam Bible, published by Veloce Publishing, who are a quite a small publishing house, I think. And it's not so much a reference title as really a collection of anecdotes, I suppose, and stories, mostly written by owners, I think probably members of the BSA Bantam Club. And that's kind of how it reads. But the fantastic thing about this particular book is all the photographs. If you are restoring a BSA Bantam and you want to have a look at what it should look like, there'll probably be a photograph in here. and also if you're interested in sort of trials and green laning or racing, there's lots of photographs for you to refer to, and I think that is the beauty of this book, is the literally hundreds of very good quality photographs. So that's the BSA Bantam Bible. Peter Henshaw is credited as the author, and that's Veloce Publishing. So yeah, worth a look if that's your thing. And then the last book I'd like to show you, it's taken me a while to get hold of. It's one of a pair, and it is, get it into focus, The Restoration of Vintage and Thoroughbred Motorcycles, and that is by Jeff Clue, who will be well known to many people in the UK, the British vintage motorcycle scene. He was, again, very prolific author. He wrote a lot of books. He worked for the Haynes Publishing Group, and he wrote magazine articles, and he was very, very much involved in the vintage motorcycle club here in the UK. Now, this book, as I say, there's two in the series. There's I think it's the Restoration and Preservation of Classic Cars. I can't remember the name of the author. And then there's this one. And I had the Classic Cars, but I didn't have this one, and I've recently got hold of it. And he's very much of the school of thought where restoration is for, you know, concours competition, getting bikes back to showroom condition. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, I'm definitely more in the oily rag camp these days, but it's a great book. It really kind of documents how to restore a motorcycle from, you know, the rusted wreck through to the concours winning machine, and it's just a really nice read. It's something you can sit in the evening with and just read through. Some lovely photographs in it, and it's a great read. So if you can find one of these, I heartily recommend it. So there we go, guys. That's the books that I wanted to show you. I hope you enjoyed that bit, and say if you do manage to pick a copy up, I hope you enjoy the books.